Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters, viewers and friends of Ikra TV. And I know that they're not all Muslim viewers that I have. There are viewers from all faiths, all communities. I hope that this discussion, this debate that we're having is of something that is interested you in this this controversy that is going on about this report that was produced by the government, commissioned by the government on race and ethnic disparity, which everybody was hoping that it would come out with what something like Sharman did, many years ago, Lord Macpherson did, nearly over 20 odd years ago, to show that there are some fundamental structural institutional issues that we need to address. Instead, what this report has actually done, it says, yes, there are problems in society, there are problems around the country, there is disparity, but it's nothing to do with the institutional organizations, it's to do with the communities themselves. So we've been discussing this with two of my very eminent and highly respected colleagues who are on my show at this time. There's Ishtiaq Ahmed, as many of you will know, has been on this program many times, and so has Shadim Hussain, who is an advocate general, as I would like to call him, for those the children who are vulnerable, children who have nobody to look after them, and he tries to do as much as he can to try and recruit more and more Muslim foster carers. Because I think, Shadim, the last time you were here, you were telling me there's about 4,000 Muslim children in the foster care system who are looking for families to adopt them, take them under their wing, and give them that Islamic ethos, so they stay within the Islamic faith communities. I'll talk about that one day again after Ramadan. I'd love to have you back on that subject. It's a huge issue. But coming back to this point, and Ishtiaq, as I said, has been fighting this cause, championing equality and social justice for, as he said, 42 years. I don't want to give his age away anyway. So, when people like him and me, many of you out there will not remember Lord Scarman. In the 80s, he produced this report, which actually first identified that there were some fundamental problems in the criminal justice system, particularly within the police service. And all these years later, we still go back to where we are. Now, Shadim and I were talking in the break, and Ishtiaq, he said that he thinks there's a conspiracy. And Ishtiaq mentioned the Gold Group. Now, those are my viewers who don't know what that is. Virtually every local authority, working in partnership with other institutional organizations like the health service, the police service, etc., set up what they call the Gold Group, which is similar to the Cobra Group that the government has, where these organizations, leadership come together, and then they look at the issue, and particularly this is to do with the pandemic, to see we have a huge issue facing us as a community. Now, how do we address that? What do we need to do? And on that Gold Group, with a population of a quarter of the population of the city of Bradford, and remember it's a huge city, being a black ethnic minority community, only one individual, Ishtiaq, was on that group, and that tells that there are fundamental problems. Shadim was telling me that there's a Gold Group, a Silver Group, and a Bronze Group. And on the Bronze Group, there were quite a few BAME members of that group, who were supposed to feed in. But when it came to the decision-making group, there's only one. Now, that itself is a damning indictment of an organization like the Gold Group in this area. So, Shadim, coming back to that, you were saying that you were on the Bronze Group or the Silver Group, and there's quite a lot of them. And that is indicative of where we are in the structure across the country. Now, can you just elaborate that a little bit on that, please?
Yeah, I was listening intently with what Ishtiaq Bhai was saying, and obviously this gold and silver structure, and understandably so. I think during the start of the pandemic, there was a need to have such a structure, and some key decisions were made, and it was very resourceful. But I was just laughing to myself because I remember I was in the Bronze Group, and there was quite a few of us there who were representative of the BAME communities, and this is quite reflective of a lot of, let's say, the structural hierarchy in public sector organizations, where you tend to find that, you have got, BAME people occupying the lower administrative management roles, So the responsibility of the Bronze Group tended to be to do a lot of the groundwork to try to understand what was going on in the community, what the issues were. But the decision making was made at this silver and gold level, you know. And I guess when it gets to that stage, if in the BAME or the Muslim quarter we only have one vote out of 8 or 10,
exactly, yes, exactly,
it's a misrepresentation, and this is where And I think credit due to Ishtiaq Bhai and Zulfi Bhai, the fact that they're on that group in the first place, because I know that there's many cities where we don't even have that representation, across other parts of the country. So although we might look at our position from and this report from a position of weakness or problem, alhamdulillah, I think in Bradford we have a position of strength where we have a long history of elders who have fought these battles and laid the foundations for us.
Can I just stop you there? I mean, let me be a bit of a devil's advocate here, right? And Ishtiaq may agree or disagree with me. Obviously, organizations like the local authority are the executively managed by the officers, but the policy decisions are made by councillors, ostensibly. Okay? Now, I would like to hear Ishtiaq's view on this as well. So if the councillors are actually determining policy of which route they're going to be taking, after 40 odd years of having BAME councillors in Bradford City Council, we still end up in a situation where the goal group has just one member. Now, does that show that we as a community have not really matured and put the level of people in those positions where they can have a substantial effect on policy decisions and delivery?
If I can come in.
I was going to ask you, yes.
If I can come in, because
Please.
You are now actually entering into political arena.
Yes, definitely.
You're talking about the effectiveness and the impact of our elected members.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not safer for me to say it.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that there is actually a saying in Bradford,
mm-hmm.
Amongst people like myself and people of my age, that we made more progress on equality and tackling institutional racism in the 80s,
yes.
when we had 3 to 4 elected members.
Right.
Now we have almost approaching 30 elected members from our communities.
Right.
We were very hopeful back in the 80s and in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Once our community becomes politicized, and that politicization actually results in our members from our communities actually being present within the council chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have members of parliament who will be sitting from Bradford from our communities, then the equality debate in Bradford is going to move forward very quickly and very positively and very constructively.
Right.
Okay. Now, what has gone wrong?
Yeah, that's the question. Why?
Yeah, out of 90, we are almost 1/3 of our, in terms of the elected members who sit around the council chamber. We got a deputy leader who's from our community.
Yes.
We got a number of portfolio holders who are from our community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is something. Yet the debate on equality in Bradford does not seem to move forward. Either for the reasons which Shadam Hussain is saying, and maybe it's the quantity and not the quality which is present, or either the institutional bureaucracy and the institutional constraints are such they are not allowing our elected members to exercise their privilege and their policy, their positions and power. Yeah, one is actually institutional racism, and other is about the type of councillors which are getting elected. My own view has been, and also has been, that as a community, I think we need to take some responsibility for actually electing the type of our representatives which actually go into the council chamber. Okay. Unfortunately, I think as a community, we have been very complacent in this one. Okay? And I think we can be very easily accused of political negligence.
Right.
Okay? Negligence. we have not actually made our vote. We have not used our vote in a selectively and in a discerning kind of way to make sure that the representatives that we are electing and sending forward in our behalf are actually representatives which are capable of doing the job for the which they are being elected. So I think the and the result is
All right.
the result. And although we have a large number of councillors, representatives, that we also have to be equally say that we got two elected members of parliament as well, who came from Bradford as well. So we have that political, at least in terms on surface, we have that political position and powering. But actually, is that delivering tangible, concrete results in terms of representations, in terms of moving the city and district forward? And my own view would be that as far as the city council is concerned, our impact, I think, is still marginal.
I think that's the point I was trying to make, that we're having so many elected representatives that we've not made the strides that we thought. I remember I was I was head of equality at an assistant director level in a local government, not too far away from here, and I could turn around that argument to say an authority not far away from here had a 13-tier senior membership team with 13 people in 1986. By 1989, out of that 13 senior member team, 3 were from a BAME community. And that local authority had not a single BAME councillor. So when a local authority like that, and had a BAME population of 1.2% compared to Bradford, and this is going back to 1986. So why is it that, somebody could do it at that time, and those 3, senior management representatives, one went on to become chief executive of Wolverhampton City Council, another went on to become chief executive of Leicester City Council. So these were people of quality, right? Obviously, because they did move on to become chief executives of other local authorities. I know we're going to be losing, I think, one of my guests because the Zoom time is coming to an end. So the question I have, Ishtiaq, and for Shadim as well, that why is it that where there's a determination, where there's opportunities, that it can be seen to be done, yet we've not been able to do it. Now, I've said this before, Ishtiaq, I think you've been on the program when we discussed this politics and representation. I have said that in this country, in my opinion, there are 100 parliamentary seats, that if the Muslim community or the BAME community really work together, we could determine the outcomes of those 100 parliamentary seats. Unfortunately, as you say, we have to take some account and some responsibility for where we are at this moment in time. Shadim, I hope you're still with us at this moment in time, because as I say, the Zoom time are ending for one of our... Shadim, you've heard what Ishtiaq has said. You've heard that, he feels, and like many people feel, that, we have been, in a way, negligent in the way we've elected our representatives or put forward people who represent us. What do we need to do to try and change that around? You are the young generation. You are, we have fought the battle. Baal bhi nikal gaye, hamare to safed bhi ho gaye, nikal bhi gaye. What is it that you would like to do to try and turn this gigantic ship round and try and deliver for the future generation that's coming? Shadim, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Iqbal Bhai.
Yeah.
I missed part of that question. I was just reconnecting there.
Okay.
Can you just repeat that?
My question
again?
was, you've heard what Ishtiaq had said, and I totally agree with him. And I also said about what happened in a not too far authority from here. But what do we as a community need to do? We've talked about, Ishtiaq talked about, we as a community need to take some responsibility as well on the type of representatives we put forward who can then make that change in an institution like a local authority. What do we really need to do at grassroots level to make that change happen?
Yeah, I think what's really important, Iqbal Bhai, is that we look at investing in future leadership. Not on the day it's needed or the night it's needed. the years preceding that, So as our demographic continues to grow, it will reach a stage at some point in cities like Bradford where the minority communities will be heading towards being 45-50%. It
Yes,
will be
yes.
interesting to see when this census that has been done, when the results come out, where we shift, because we know that the minority communities are growing at a faster rate than the white British communities. Yeah. And in Bradford, in maybe 20 years' time, we could actually be a majority. There could be.
Inshallah. That's a prediction, yes.
Well, to be honest with you, it's not a prediction. It's a forecast based upon trends. That as the demographic profile of the cities continue to evolve and grow, then it could lead to that situation. Maybe not in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, but maybe by 2050 we could be there. Yeah. Nevertheless, I think, and then we are a majority, and we need to start acting in that way as well. Yeah. I think outside of this political arena, and outside of the public sector arena, the Muslim community plays a substantial role in the city.
Oh, definitely.
Our faith leadership, mashallah, is second to none. We have a national reach with our faith leadership, with the education and leadership they provide. Our business community is one of the best in the country. We contribute massively to the economy. I actually think that the solution, going back to the report on inequalities, the solution is in the hands of the minority communities to address inequalities, because we have the ability to, we're very entrepreneurial. We could create business. And if it wasn't for the success of the South Asian businesses in Bradford, particularly in the inner city areas, for the amount of employment that they create, God knows what bad it would be here,
Well, Shadim, you know my views. We've discussed this many, many times. One of my pet projects has been over the last few years is to capture data around the Muslim business community, to showcase how much we contribute to the economy of West Yorkshire, for example. Because I think there's a huge amount of data there, that we don't capture. And then we can showcase to the rest of the world as to how much, as you say, what contribution we make, the number of people all these businesses employ, the amount of corporation tax that they pay, the amount of VAT they contribute to the economy, the amount of PAYE that they pay to their staff. That runs into millions and billions, but we don't do that. So let's come back to that. Yeah, you're right. So you're saying we need to nurture young people into...
I think the point that I was making, Iqbal Bhai, is that we shouldn't look at this from a position of weakness. We should look at it from a position of strength, because we have a lot to bring to the table.
Yes.
The South Asian communities in Bradford and in other parts of the country will be integral to the recovery. Given the situation around Brexit, the government is looking to trade more with the Commonwealth countries, and Pakistan and India and such places are cited as being integral trading partners, and cities like Bradford have very deep-rooted connections. In terms of the leadership, there most definitely does need to be investment into youth leadership. I think that sits with us as a community. And what I would like to see is more people from the business community, those who have been successful, trying their hand in the political arena, because I think they have a lot to bring.
I'm sure they do. Yes, I'm sure they do. Can I come back to Ishtiaq for a minute? I hope Ishtiaq is joined back with us on Zoom, because I know there was an expiration time that so Ishtiaq, Shadim says that we need to nurture young people into politics, and that's something you talked about as well. But do you feel that there's a bit of apathy developing in our young people around politics, that they feel that politics is for somebody else and we don't need to be engaged in that? Do you feel that there's that zeal still there in young people? People like Shadim, mashallah, may Allah give him strength and reward him for what he does. But do you feel that there's that zeal still developing in the community to try and bring about that change that we've been talking about?
Yes, I think there's a couple of points that I would like to make. Yes, generally, I totally endorse what Shadam was saying, both in terms of our economic strength, city, and young people coming forward and nurturing leadership, and that I think all that is something that needs to happen. There's a couple of concerns I have. One is that yes, our business community in Bradford is very strong, but that strength is not translated influence and impact.
Yes.
So when you look at institutions like chambers of commerce, when you look at the forums and networks of the businesses in Bradford, there is actually a marked absence
Yes.
of our community in those forums. Okay, so I think that when I look at the youth leadership, and I'm all for the youth leadership, and I think our future is with our young people. But my concern is that the young people who are coming to either are actually not politicized at all, they have very little political interest, and those who have some political interest actually are not familiar with their historical legacy. They don't understand the journey that our community has traveled.
Right.
They don't actually understand and identify the contributions and the hardship our community has gone through to get to where we are. So yes, we need young people. We need young people to come forward. We need to make sure that they are mentored and they are nurtured. But young people who actually sit easily in the present context, fully aware of the journey that our community has traveled.
Right. Yeah. They need to know the history.
That is the connection that is missing.
Right.
So business community needs to make its position felt in the city, and young people need to be nurtured and support to come forward. If we can do it in parallel, our economy is strong. We have new leadership, and we have to make sure that we also need to look at health and education, because any community to move forward needs to be healthy, well educated, well resourced, and actually forward looking.
I think those are really important and valid points, Ishtiaq. I'm coming to the end of the program, and I think, as I say every week, when we're just getting into the meat of things, we have, unfortunately, come to the end of the program. So, Ishtiaq, can I say thank you very, very much for joining me. Thank you for taking your time out. I know you've just come back from Pakistan, and I know you're not fully recovered. May Allah give you strength and give you, the ability to have Ramadan with peace, with with safety, and with spiritual uplifting as well. So, inshallah, I'll have you back, come into the studio after Ramadan, because there are some other important issues we want to talk about. But I'm deeply, on behalf of my viewers and everybody else at Iqra TV, thank you very much. Inshallah, I'll see you too. Shadim, I want to say thank you to you as well for joining me and giving us some insight into the work that you're doing as well, which is absolutely vital and necessary. And inshallah, as I said to you before, the work you're doing, we need to actually bring more of that to the attention of the viewers of Iqra TV as well. So inshallah, after Ramadan, when you have time, please come back and we talk about the Muslim Foster Care Network and the work that you do. To my viewers, I say thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found this program of some interest. There are some huge challenges which are facing our community, and if we don't campaign against the recommendations of this report and we don't do pushback, we may find ourselves in this situation, as Ishtiaq said, we've gone back 40, 50 years. I hope you've enjoyed the program. May Allah have mercy on all of us. May Allah protect all of us. May Allah give you a Ramadan that gives you spiritual upliftment, that it protects you all. Please, please, please make dua for me, and all my guests, Ishtiaq and Shadim, and all who have been with me throughout the year and since we started after the pandemic, all those who've suffered in the pandemic, whether they've passed away or not, and those who are ill, please make dua for all of us. May Allah be with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.